Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Redefine series week 5. We have today a guest speaker, Samantha Kaaua. Samantha is an author, professional keynote speaker, inner mosaic coach, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and the founder of the Gems with Samantha Kaaua, an international coaching company focused on helping individuals to transform their lives through building healthy relationships. She is an Amazon best-selling co-author of Short, Sweet, and Sacred, and is working on her second book where she shares all her trade secrets. Since 2014, Samantha has worked with, guided, and successfully mentored upwards of 1,000 individuals and couples to transform their marriage and achieve their dreams. She's an expert in creating healthy relationships and specializes in empowering individuals to transform their relationships so they can unlock their greatest potential. Samantha always says it only takes one person to transform your relationship and has learned this by saving her own marriage years ago. She realized that her relationship challenges held her back from truly being her best self and shining her light in the world, and that is why she wants to help as many people to break through their biggest blocks and live a full spectrum of life, of joy, peace, and abundance. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Samantha Kaaua.
Thank you. Thanks, Kelly. I'm so thrilled to be here to be sharing this content with you. And I especially put this one together for Kelly and for our Happy Me series. So
We're
I
so
hope,
grateful and
oh,
honored. Thank
thanks.
you.
I hope you guys enjoy this. And yeah, let's get started. Let's get going. So we are going to redefine relationships this week. That's what our presentation is all about. So let me just ask you. I want to start by asking all of you a question, or a few questions actually. So, are you tired of working so hard and not seeing the results you would love in your life, right? This is any area, maybe not just your relationships, but just all of life. Are you fed up with putting other people first and it not being reciprocated, right? How many of you guys are the people pleasers in the room, the ones that, do gooders, right? Or are you done putting your passion on pause for everyone else? Okay. And how about this? Do you feel like you keep doing, and aren't getting much in return, right? Whether that's through your relationships or just in general. Do you dim your light so you don't outshine other people in your life, right? May that be your spouse, your children, your parents, your friends, your family members. Or do you feel powerless and burnt out in your most intimate relationships? So, you could be one or you could be all of these, right? But I want you to know that you're in the right place. So if you resonate with any of those statements earlier, that you're in the right place because we're here to redefine your relationships today. So, who am I? I know that Kelly just did this beautiful introduction of me. So, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that, Kelly. But let me just kind of back this up and slow things down a little bit and share with you who I am. So, again, I am Samantha Kaaua. I am the founder and CEO of the Gems with Samantha Kaaua, my international company. I help people to transform their relationships so they can finally embrace their greatness, bring their dreams to life, and create a legacy for their family. I am the creator of the Inner Mosaic modality and method, and in innovative technique. Wow, I can't speak today. An innovative technique that has helped many people to better understand themselves and overcome their biggest blocks to success. So I'm actually going to be sharing a little bit more about that in today's presentation. Again, Kelly mentioned that I'm a bestseller and co-author of Short, Sweet, and Sacred, licensed marriage and family therapist. But really, the main point here is that my goal is to help transcend the cultural norms for healthy relationships and marriages across the globe. So that's really what I'm passionate about and why I'm here today, and that I continue to present in as many places as I possibly can. So, what I believe, so let me just kind of go a little deeper about, that was who I am, but this is really what I believe. And I think this is where you're going to decide if, okay, I do really want to listen to what Sam has to say, or maybe, nope, I don't believe what she believes. So I'll check out here. But I believe that a healthy marriage actually will lead to a healthy home, right? That will cultivate healthy communities and therefore a healthy world. So there are many, many different routes to having this amazing world, right? That we live in, this loving world that we live in. And for me, the path to that beautiful world that I want to live in starts with a healthy marriage or healthy relationships, right? And I believe that our relationship challenges hold us back from success in other areas of our lives. How many of you guys have ever felt that you can't move forward in your career, or you're having trouble thinking clearly when you're distraught at home in your relationship, right? Whether that be your marriage or maybe even a relationship with your parents or children, like that can consume you and stop you from reaching your fullest potential elsewhere. And I believe that no matter how successful you do become, you will never enjoy it without a healthy relationship or relationships in your life, right? So that truly is, it comes all back to relationships. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping people to improve their relationships. But you see, there's a problem. We have a major problem in the world. And let me just present this problem for you before we get started. So in 2020, a study conducted by the PEW Research Center found that only 43% of couples were very satisfied with their relationship. Okay. And you would think, oh, wow, that's like almost half. But no, that's not a good sign. That's less than half. And that means 57% of couples are dissatisfied with something in their relationship. And you would think, wow, that's actually, when you presence that, that's a big percentage of people in relationships not happy. And in 2021, the World Population Review reported that about 50% of marriages in the US end in divorce, the sixth highest divorce rate in the world. And it gets worse. 60% of second marriages, 73% of third marriages also end in divorce. Okay, but the problem continues. All right. I promise it'll get happier in a second. In 2020, a large survey of young adults, all college graduates, found that 17% experienced estrangement from their immediate family member, right? Like an immediate family member. So they're just feeling distant and disconnected from family. According to recent statistics, 70 to 80% of Americans consider their families dysfunctional. That's a huge number. 70 to 80% of Americans consider their families dysfunctional. In a study from Georgetown University, 98% of people reported experience toxic behavior at work. Look at all of these places that we have relationships that we're not feeling happy or satisfied. Of those who were surveyed, 78% said that their commitment to the organization has declined due to toxic relationships within the company. And like success in businesses have to do with retention of their employees. And if their employees aren't happy, 78% of them, because of toxic relationships, are wanting out. That's a huge problem. So it's not just marriages, it's also in other areas of our lives, other relationships. So why should this matter to you? Why does this matter to you? Right? So if you're currently married and finding yourself feeling even somewhat dissatisfied in your marriage, there is a high likelihood your marriage could end in a divorce. Right? Look at the statistics. There's a you have 50-50 chance at this point, right? But the thing is, most marriages take 6 to 7 years of unhappiness before the couple receives the help they need. That's a long time of suffering. That's a long time of dissatisfaction. And many studies have shown the significant impact toxic or negative relationships have on your emotional and physical health. So while this is going on, it's deteriorating you from the inside out, right? Your health is declining, your mental capacity is declining. So it's so important for us to be focusing on relationships. So, how many years has it really been for all of us, right? Like, let's think about it. If half of us or more than half of us are dissatisfied with something in our relationship, and it takes 6 to 7 years for us to actually do anything about it, how long has it really been, right? How many years have you felt challenged in your relationships? And I'm not just talking about your marriage. It could be with your parents, with your children, with your, your friends and coworkers, your boss, whatever that is. And again, yeah, might not be your significant other. Um, so no matter what type of relationship you may feel challenged in, it will all have the same effect on your life. So don't just say, oh, it's not my husband, so it's fine. It'll be fine. No, there's the same emotional and physical impact on you when you have discord in your workplace, when you have discord with a distant family member or a friendship. It still plays a role and takes a toll on your body and your mind. So, the top three causes of relationship problems include infidelity, problems with money, and lack of communication. And obviously, that's for intimate relationships, but really, that they all have something in common, right? So, do you see the common denominator here? And if you don't worry, I'm going to tell you. So, the common denominator is that they all lack and they're all related to trust, or more specifically, the lack of trust. Kelly, were you going to say that? Is that what you're?
No. But I agree. I agree. That's very
Yeah,
crucial.
it
Mm-hmm.
has to do with trust. I mean, because if you think about it, infidelity is actually a trust thing. You're breaching trust in a relationship. So maybe you won't have infidelity in, a platonic relationship with other people, but there could be this breach of trust, right? And like money as well, money is also a trust factor. You're not trusting your partner to handle money well. And communication obviously
Right.
definitely has to do with trust because you're not believing the words that are coming out of the other person's mouth,
Right.
right? All trust factors. Okay. So according to Psychology Today, partners who don't trust can't feel secure. Thus, their relationship will cycle through frequent emotional highs and lows because a mistrusting partner spends much of their time scrutinizing their relationship and trying to understand their partner's motives. Okay, so this is why you feel so consumed by your relationship problems. This is why you can't focus on other tasks and you can't get things done at work because you're trying to understand and you're trying to predict the person that you're feeling betrayed from, right? You're trying to protect yourself. It's a survival mode that you become in. So let's go over something a little bit more complex. For some of you, you might know this, but some of you, this might be the first time you've ever heard of it. But in psychology, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay. And so for some of you, you're going to have to go look this up later. I'm not going to go into the depths of it. But what I want to present is that this is the hierarchy of needs. And, just to present this teaching, some people don't believe in Maslow's hierarchy of needs anymore. But I do think that it has some basic, I still think that it holds some weight here in the psychology field, that there is still a lot of truth within it, even though there's obviously new nuances that we've now know through science and psychology. But basically, Maslow explained that there's an order of or a hierarchy of our needs as human beings, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
first most basic need is physiological: food, water, warmth, and rest. And if you don't have those things, nothing else matters, right? So the basic safety and, well, sorry, physiological needs are necessary for your body to function. And then it goes to safety, right? Are you feeling safe and secure Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have a bed to sleep in? Do you feel like you have some security, whether that's financial security, right? That's important. But then look at this, belonging and love needs comes next. Your intimate relationships and your friendships. So, aside from all the most very basic needs of survival, relationships are next. You can't get to this, prestige and feeling of accomplishment, this esteem needs, this self-esteem needs, or self-actualization, which is, if you're here watching any of Kelly's series, you are searching for self-actualization. I know so, right? And we're not able to get there if we don't meet the relationship needs. And mind you, of course, like I said earlier, there's some nuances that have changed in recent years from Maslow's study way back when. But I do think that there is something there, like for us to really consider and for us to give, have a better understanding of why we get so stuck in relationships. So I just wanted to share that with you and presence that with you, and food for thought. You can look into that a little bit more for a deeper understanding. But what that really means is that if you don't feel secure in your relationships of any kind, you will never be able to achieve your greatness, let alone feel a sense of belonging or truly, I think that's supposed to say, feel all the love that is present in your life. So sorry for my typo. But yeah, you can't feel the love in your life if you're not able to um, really work on your relationships of any kind, right? And you'll never be able to achieve the greatness that you would love to achieve in this lifetime. So let me ask you a couple more questions before we really get into the meat and potatoes of today. So you've been told, can you relate to this first and foremost? That you've been told that you can't change anyone but yourself, right? I think all of us have been told that and heard that over and over before. Um, so you dove deep into personal development, maybe found a hobby, started a side hustle, right? If you're experiencing any type of relationship challenges, this is something that you could be going through, right? You've been told that you can't change anyone, so let's focus on ourselves. Let's go into personal development. Let's find a hobby. Let's focus on us, right? Meanwhile, things seem to be getting worse and your partner hasn't changed one bit. So you're like, well, the only person I can work on is me, but things aren't getting better. So what am I supposed to do? Right? And you find yourself getting less and less patient and begin criticizing your partner's every move. Can anyone relate? I know only Kelly and I are live right now, but I'm sure some people watching this is going to be nodding their heads because I know I can. This is me. Until one day you simply had enough, right? The only option you can think of is couples counseling or marriage therapy for things to begin to change. And you know that you play a role in this cycle of insanity too. And I think I doubled this slide, right? So hold on one second. Until you had enough, but then the only option you can think of is couples counseling or marriage therapy for things to begin to change. You know that you play a role in this too, right? In this cycle of insanity too, but you don't know what else to do because you've been working on yourself this whole time, months, years, maybe, or even your whole life. You're like, okay, world, I know you're telling me I can't work on anyone else, but there might not be anything left for me to work on. No, we know that there's always something to work on, but still, it feels really disheartening and it feels discouraging because we feel like we're alone in this process, right? But it's not your fault. I want to presence this. It's so important. It's not your fault because we've been misled. You've been misled. Because the reality is, marriage counseling is actually one of the worst things you can do when one of you aren't ready or committed to the process. I've seen it over and over again as a marriage therapist. If one person is being forced there or threatened there, it tends to get a lot worse before it even can get better, right? And relationships aren't meant to be 50-50. If you've ever heard that, 50-50, like he's not pulling his side of the weight, well, it's not a 50-50 equation. It's 100-100, okay? Your partner isn't responsible to fulfill your needs. so many teachers out there have taught, a lot of the marriage and marital relationship teachings used to teach us how to fulfill our partner's needs and how our partner should be fulfilling ours. That's not a thing that's healthy for us. Um, Personal development won't save your marriage or improve any of your relationships for that matter, right? In fact, it doesn't it make you feel even further apart and less connected to your partner? So I want to debunk this myth of personal development being the key to relationship success. And it's not that. And what we're teaching here, what Kelly is teaching here is not personal development. It's a much deeper spiritual process, spiritual growth than just, oh, let's just get more skill sets and develop ourselves a little better. This is deeper than that. Trust isn't something that's earned or built. I know that's like a really hard concept for some people to swallow because they're like, no, he needs to earn my trust back. What are you talking about? He lost it or she lost it, right? And it's actually, I'm going to teach you a little bit more about trust today. And then lastly, a healthy relationship won't make you feel safe or secure. And I think that's a lot of the times what we are looking for. We want the healthy relationship so we can feel safer and we can feel more secure. But that's backwards. That's not going to happen that way. The relationship itself isn't the key to your safety or your security. Just like when someone's like, I'm not happy anymore in this relationship, which is like, okay, the relationship is actually not responsible for your happiness. Your partner is not responsible to make you happy. That's something else. Okay. So these are all common misconceptions. So I want just you to presence that you've been misled. It's not your fault. Okay. So we just want to like push all that blame and shame out the window. And we're going to start fresh. We're redefining relationships, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
love it. There's just, you can just imagine how many people are, not understanding why their relationship is like that or like
Exactly.
this, right?
And it's because we've been taught and programmed throughout
Mm-hmm.
our entire lives to
Yeah,
something that actually isn't in alignment with the universal laws. It's not helpful to create these successful relationships, hence why we have the numbers we do, which I shared earlier.
right, right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. I want to just share a little bit more about, you got my accolades, but you didn't really hear my story. So it was 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and was I got up and I was super excited because today was the day of my comprehensive exams to become a marriage and family therapist. I was like freaked out, but also excited because it's almost over. And I'm just like hurrying downstairs, running downstairs after getting ready. I ran downstairs to pack my things, pack a cooler. It's an 8-hour comprehensive exam. So I needed to have lunch. I needed to have snacks. I needed not to be hungry during it. So I'm packing all my things when all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, I do need a cooler to put all my snacks in. Let me go find one. And I found one. And inside of the cooler, there was another box, and then something that smelled absolutely horrible, like horrific. And I was like, what is this? And my husband was sitting on the couch um, at that time. So I walked over to him and I was like, what is this? And all of a sudden, he burst into tears and started crying. And I was like, why are you crying? Like, what the heck is happening? Like, and he couldn't say anything. He really just had no words. And then it hit me. I was like, holy crap, this is weed. This is marijuana. This is, and me being someone who's never done a lot of things in my life, I was like, oh, hello. Like, I know what this is. But I just was in such a mental space that wasn't what I expected to be in my home. And I was in shock because this wasn't just your recreational marijuana. This wasn't medicinal marijuana. I actually have no problems with marijuana. I What this represented though was years and years of lies. Was the, couch being more comfortable than our bed. And so my husband chose to sleep downstairs on the comfortable couch. This was him, just keeping me away from his friends and having this double life of like, no, I want to go hang out with my friends and you can stay home with the kids, right? Like it was just, I didn't, it just hit me like a wall, like a brick wall. I was like, oh my gosh, like what the heck is happening right now? I'm about to go take my exam and this is not happening right now. Like I was just in utter shock because like many of you, right? I value family above everything else. I was taught to be honest and tell the truth. And I wanted to break the toxic cycles in my family, but here I was. I sat finally like ended up sitting down on the couch next to my husband like, should I even go take this test? Like, do I even deserve to be a marriage and family therapist? Like my marriage is falling to pieces right now. Like this is this is new information and I don't know if I deserve this degree. I don't know if I deserve to be doing what I'm doing when this has been happening behind my back for 10 years. This was 10 years of lies. This was very significant. This was not just marijuana or weed. This was 10 years of lies. This symbolized 10 years of lies. And this also symbolized addiction being perpetuated in my family. This symbolized the the lack of honesty, that the lies that have been perpetuated from my grandmother's generation to my parents' generation, now to mine, right? And it was like, oh my gosh. But something happens, something amazing happens when you're pushed to the edge of the life you've known. And I know that each and every one of you have experienced this too. That not by choice sometimes, but by sheer utter pushed off the cliff from the universe, you are pushed to this edge and something amazing happens, right? And I don't know what it was in me, but I got up from that couch and I realized, you know what? No, like I'm going to choose me this time. I'm going to go do this dang thing. I'm going to take this test. I don't care what's happening right now with you, with us. Like I deserve this. Like I deserve, maybe I don't feel deserving of the title, but I deserve to at least take this damn test. Right? Like I deserve that. And
It's amazing how you got through the test
oh,
with all
I was
with
a
that
hot mess.
shocking discovery.
I got to the exam and my professor was proctoring it and I lost it. Like I just started bawling and he's like, "Stop it. Go take this exam. You deserve this." And so luckily he was there to like shake me and wake me up and say like, "Just do what you know, Sam. Do what you
And
know."
it was kind of, I think, providential too. Like what the type of problem you have is actually what you're gonna be
Oh my
solving,
gosh, like
right?
it's the universe and the universe's humor, right? Like
Yeah,
God's
yeah,
God.
exactly.
You can't time that more perfectly.
No, that's what I thought. Like the timing is just perfect.
Yeah. So it was like I was
God's humor. My
supposed
husband always say that.
to say that one more time. Sorry, it got cut off.
Sorry, I think we talked to him. You're right. God's humor in that scenario is just
Right?
so palpable.
Yes. It's like, okay, I'm supposed to take a comprehensive exam, but really my exam happened at home on the couch before that qualified
You
me.
had a real life lesson
Oh
at
yeah.
home.
Oh yeah. I got qualified well before taking that
Yeah.
exam. Um, but the cool thing is I passed. So this
Yeah. Look at
exam,
that
I graduated.
photo.
Yep, this
I've
was
never seen this photo before, so yeah.
yes. So this is I was like covered in leis in Hawaii. We, we
Yeah.
honor celebration with lei. And yeah, this was at my graduation. A few months later, we took it, I think it was in like May, and this graduation happened in like June or July. So a couple months later I got to walk and receive my
Oh.
diploma. So that was really cool. But here's the thing. My story isn't unique.
Mhm.
It all of us have experienced hardships and challenges in our relationships, right? It doesn't have to be your spouse. It could be your parents, it could be your children, it could be a friend that you're feeling this distance or dysfunction or discord with, right? And I know that, yeah, okay, maybe the details of my story can be really unique, but the reality is we're all going through something. And we all have been through something in our relationships, right? And that's really important for us to presence here, because this is not me trying to impress you with my story. This is me trying to impress upon you that this is you too, right? This is all of us. We all have gone through the depths in our relationships, and I want to share with you a really cool way to move through relationship challenges moving forward. So, before we go there, I think this slide was a little bit out of place, but I completely transformed, right? Like I continued to put work into myself. I put myself first. I embarked on a spiritual journey, right? This is not just personal development. I'm not saying personal development is bad. I'm just saying that you can't do it alone with only personal development. It takes a deeper journey. And I completely transformed, right? So even after passing the exam, that was just the beginning. The work just begun, right? I
Right.
became aware, and it's like it wasn't just that awareness that was going to change my life. It was I needed to do the work. So, continuing to put myself first and embarking on a spiritual journey completely transformed my life. And over the past 7 years, I've helped many, many individuals and couples to create happy, healthy, and wholesome relationships, and to learn how to trust all parts of themselves first, because that's where the first relationship starts, is within you, right? And I know that many people can talk about the most important relationship being with God or being with your higher power, but again, that relationship lives within you. So the first and foremost relationship happens here, and trusting all parts of themselves first before they start to see any results outside of themselves. Okay, so here are my top 3 marriage mind shifts. And I know I'm calling them marriage mind shifts because my main focus is marriages, but this applies to all your relationships. Okay, so this is I would even, go to say that these are your top 3 relationship um redefining relationship tools as well, right? Like, so you can use these tools in any relationship um that you're encountering challenge or dysfunction or discord. Okay, so the very first tip that I like to share is that your partner is a perfect reflection of your subconscious beliefs. Perfect reflection. So back in 1952, Neville Goddard wrote The Power of Awareness. He is a thought leader. I love his work. I read his work all the time. But he shared a story about a woman who worked for a prominent, I think it was like a producer, and he basically wasn't very nice to her. So this woman went to Neville one day and was like, "Can you help me? Like, my boss is just the most horrible boss in the world. He is just mean and criticizes all of my work, and he can never say a nice thing ever. And I just stress about having conversations with him like all day, every day, right?" And Neville challenged her and said, "It's actually not him who needs to change, but it's you. Your attitude is the problem, right?" And she was like, "What? My attitude is the problem? It's not my attitude, it's him, his behavior." And she was like, "Okay, no, no, no. But Neville's the expert. So I'm going to listen to Neville and try an experiment." And so she tried an experiment because he said, "I bet that you're having these conversations with your boss well before you get to work and well after you get home. That they're not just conversations, but they're arguments, right?" And she admitted that she would say things in her mind to this man that she would never say out loud. She would call him names, she would say things that are like rude and abrupt, and she would tell him and put him in his place in her mind, but never ever would dare to say that in person. And so he challenged her to change the conversation she was having in her mind with her boss, and simply thank him for the praise that he was giving her, which he wasn't yet, but just imagine it in her mind that it was happening. And sure enough, soon enough, she changed her attitude, right? He says if she simply changed her attitude towards her boss before he showed a change in behavior, then it would come to fruition. That's how you create your reality, right? And sure enough, he did. One day, he actually came up to her and praised the very next time they interacted, which was like maybe a week later or so. He praised her work and said this was the best work you've ever produced, that you've ever done. And she was in shock, but she was like, no, you know what? This is true. And this holds true for all of us, right? Because we're not responsible for our experience, our the events that happen to us, but we are responsible for our experience of that event that's happened in your life. So how you experience life is up to you. What happens to you might not be up to you, but how you experience it, right? So when I found out about my husband's 10-year addiction, I couldn't control that. I couldn't change that. But what I could control and what I was responsible for was how I experienced that, right? I could have said, I'm a failure, which I did in that moment. I'm a failure. I don't deserve to be a marriage therapist. Or I could use that and decide that my experience was this is going to empower me to work on me and work on my marriage, and this isn't the end, right? So let me present what Neville Goddard taught this woman on a more, you know, what is the word? Current, current way of looking at it through psychology. So many of us know what cognitive behavioral therapy is. It's CBT. And the basic teachings and the tenet of CBT is your thoughts cause your feelings cause your actions, and your actions cause your results. It's simple. Thoughts create your results. And so, if that's the case, then it's actually not our results that dictate what we can or cannot do, it's our thinking, right? And our thinking, our results are simply a reflection of the thoughts we thought a day ago, a month ago, even a second ago, right? It's just a reflection. And therefore, right? And well, let me just take this a little deeper really quickly. What is even deeper than your thoughts are your beliefs, right? So beliefs are actually just thoughts, thought over and over and over and over and over and over and over until they become a belief, right? You pattern them in your neural pathways so much, it solidifies into a belief. So your beliefs are actually the foundation of your results. Your beliefs, all the beliefs that you have within you about anything in life will influence and impact your results, including your relationships. So I believed at a really young age that men can't be trusted, that men leave me because my dad and my mom were split up before I was even one. So he left. My uncle, who was a really prominent, like we call it Hanai uncle in Hawaiian, but he was just like a family friend that came into my life and became a second father figure for me. Well, he passed away when I was 7. And I felt abandoned again by another male figure in my life, right? And then more and more other male figures, the impact of other relationships led to this really deep seated belief that men leave me, they hurt me, they lie, they leave. And that showed up in my marriage, right? So if you so this is something I learned in that process, is that your spouse can become your greatest teacher and give you the greatest gift, which I believe is awareness. So if you want to know what you've been thinking, just go look at your relationship results. Go look at your money results. Go look at your health results. Go look at all the results that you have in your life, the circumstance, situations, and conditions. And it will clearly and perfectly tell you what you've been thinking about yourself and about the world around you, right? So see your partner not as this person who doesn't want to change, but see your partner as a reflection of a belief that you haven't let go of yet, right? So if you want to know what your subconscious beliefs are, so these are beliefs that you might not be fully aware of yet, just simply look at your results, okay? And therefore, that is why your partner is a perfect reflection of these subconscious beliefs. And that's why it's such a beautiful gift. I now can see it in retrospect, such a beautiful gift that my husband gave me, because I wouldn't have been aware of this belief had he not shown up the way he did. So he's giving me all this beautiful feedback that I can go and find these subconscious beliefs holding me back from happiness, holding me back from success. Okay, I'm going to move through these two. I know we started like 10 minutes late, but I want to move through the last two with ease and joy and flow, but also get you to the point so you know what that what each of them mean. Okay, so when I was finally aware of this truth, right, my husband was simply reflecting back to me how much I didn't trust myself. That's what he was reflecting. I didn't trust men. Oh my gosh. Okay. But really, it's not that I didn't trust men in my life. It was I didn't trust me to be good enough. I didn't trust me to be worthy enough for a happy, healthy relationship with a man to stay, right? So it was me I didn't trust. It wasn't him. I mean, yeah, maybe it could be him partially, but that wasn't the deepest point of it. So trust cannot be built between two people until it is built within oneself first. This foundation of trust is so important, but it actually begins within you, not without you, not outside of you, right? So all relationships must be built on a foundation of self trust. And I can even argue that self is with a higher, with what is it, uppercase S, right? Higher self trust, even. So both and. So I didn't know who I was and I didn't know what I wanted. That's really the depths that I hit after that event, right? After finding out my husband was hiding that addiction behind my back. I didn't, and it really got me to think about things and think about me, right? And but I did know I knew that I didn't want them to grow up in a broken home. I knew that I did want them to know what a healthy relationship looked like. And I knew that I needed to stop letting life happen to me and start doing something about it, right? We can't redefine our relationships by trying to fix the outside problem. The only way to redefine it is to start here, right? And start doing something within ourselves about it. And not just this personal development stuff, but this deeper inner work. So when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So when I was ready, my mentors appeared. I had many, many mentors on this path and in this journey, and I'm so grateful for them. Some of them were very deep and spiritual. Others of them like helped me to bridge this metaphysical and mainstream gap. But really, only when I was ready did they start showing up in my life, right? And so my lack of trust in myself was actually a lack of trust in the universe. That's the deeper part of all of this. I didn't have this relationship with a higher power. I didn't have a relationship with there's something happening that's magical, that's connected to us all, that brings us all together. Like I didn't know that. And I didn't know who I was because I didn't know God. And I'm not saying this from a religious perspective because I'm actually not religious. I'm saying this from a perspective of I didn't realize this point of power within me, this infinite side of my nature. I didn't know that existed, and I didn't know that I had access to this infinite side of my nature, right? I could feel that I was a part of something greater, but I didn't know, right? And so it was time that I faced my fears. Because I don't know about you, but when you start exploring the metaphysical world, the spiritual world, you're like, scariness, the unseen forces, the shadows, the everything, right? And like I was scared. Like I became
The woo woo stuff. That's what they
the
call it.
woo, the voodoo, the all of the
The,
above. Like I literally became scared of the dark again as a grown adult because I was like, like demons and angels and all of the above. Like I still can't see any of you, so you're scaring the crap out of me, right? But I needed to face those fears because that's where the magic all lived, right? And I needed to understand that the only thing that was real is love, right? But we live in a world of duality. We live in a world of contrast. And the only way for you to see and feel the depths of love that exist in this world is for you to face the demons and for you to face the shadows. The only way to know the light is to also know the darkness. Okay? So, self trust. All of my external relationships needed to be built on a foundation of my internal relationships. That was an aha moment for me, right? And all relationships must be built on this foundation of self trust. So, as we go through this, and Kelly, let me just like pause here to make sure I have like a few more minutes past the hour. Is that
Yeah,
still okay? Okay,
definitely. Go
cool.
go for it.
I want to give
I'm
everyone
learning so much, and I've worked with you for almost a year, but this is something you and you're amazing teacher, Sam. I just want to
oh,
say
thank
that.
you. So I want to give everyone the full, content that I had built into this. So what I want to talk about now, because I want to pause here. This is my second tip, which is all relationships must be built on a foundation of self-trust. Um, but many people are like, okay, but how? Like, how do you do that? And so earlier in this talk, Kelly, I believe you shared it, but I also shared that I have this what's called the inner mosaic method. And I want to walk you through it really quickly, in the fastest way I possibly can, to help you get started in this work, because I want this work to be everywhere. I literally want everyone to know this as a tool to help them get unstuck in any situation, especially their relationships. But what I want you to do right now is to call to mind, right? Just this is you and you. That's all. I can't see you, I can't hear you, no one else can either. So you and you, and if you have to pause this recording at all, then do that as well. But I want you to think of kind of a relationship challenge that's causing you the most heartache right now, causing you the most stress and anxiety. Like, think of that relationship challenge or that relationship that you're in that's causing that for you. Okay. And what I want you to do, just bring it to mind or write it down, journal. This is a workshop, so I wanted you guys to work a little. And so do it at your own pace. You can pause this as needed. When you think about that relationship challenge, so don't think about the entire relationship because that's a lot of things happening. I'm sure there's a long list that we can create together, but I just want you to pick one challenge, right? It could be as small as my husband won't take out the trash when I ask him to. Or it could be a larger challenge of trust and connection, communication, intimacy, those types of things. But really just pick one. I don't need a laundry list. One that's most pressing or at the front of your heart right now. And I want you to call to mind all the this is step 1. The step 1 is the content, okay? So this is like what's happening, what happened most recently, what's like the actual facts of the situation. So what just happened in the last situation that you got triggered of this problem in your life, in your relationship? You can write out the facts, okay? It's just the content. That's step 1. And I'm helping you to get unstuck in a situation or a relationship that you're in. This is what this process is all about. Okay, so write down the content of what happened, the facts of what happened. Step 2 is the story. So the story you're telling yourself about this situation. If it's, for example, your husband not taking out the trash when you ask him to, so that's the content. The story is he doesn't listen to me. He doesn't respect me. He doesn't love me. He always pushes me aside. He never does anything when he says he's going to do them. He says, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm not important. As you can tell, I'm building a story about a different, deeper meaning about the trash, right? It's not just about the trash anymore. There's a story. So identify the story you're telling yourself, right? Like in the example of Neville Goddard's student, she told herself a story about her boss that was he was mean and cruel and he didn't like any of her work, right? She started to apply meaning to the situations. Okay. Now that you have this story, I want you to identify the part of yourself that's being triggered. So the way that we do that is you identify when you're telling yourself this story about your spouse or your family member or friend or boss or whoever you chose, what feelings come up for you, right? What feelings rise up for you? Is it frustration, anger, hurt, betrayal? There's a laundry list of feelings that could come up for you. And think about the thoughts, right? The thoughts that are playing through this story. He doesn't respect me. He doesn't, whether that, like, he doesn't follow through on his word. He And it could be even like he doesn't care about me. And identify the one that really stands out the most, that has the most emotion attached to it. And when you have that, I'm going a little fast, I know, but you can always pause this later. But when you have that, I want you to go back into your memory, to your earliest memory of a time in your life where you felt that before. Right? Someone doesn't respect you, your word doesn't matter, people don't listen, I'm irrelevant, I'm not important to people. Think about an earliest memory, and this is without strain or struggle. It's just the earliest one that comes up in your mind, because many could be passing through right now. And you just pick one out, the earliest one you can think of you feeling a very similar feeling, of you telling yourself a very similar story. And what we're doing right now is we're finding the point of origin. Some people could call this inner child work, but I'm going to share with you why that's different. Because in inner child work, we go back to that point of origin, that earliest memory, and we stay there. And we re-pattern the memory in the past. Well, in the inner mosaic work, we don't stay there. We just identify them and we bring them back into the present moment. Okay? So pause the video if you haven't found this moment yet. But I want you to really think about it. And if you have to journal about it and find this earliest memory. Because in our lives, we have these impactful moments that happen from the day we're born. And these impactful moments leave an imprint on our soul. And these imprints create a part of ourselves that will forever be around till the day we die. If you've ever watched the movie Inside Out from Disney, the animated movie, they have a panel of feelings, although it's like anger, disgust, joy, and sadness, really. And then as you see towards the end of the movie, it actually grows. Your feelings can, become more complex and grow. But really, we have all these different parts that were created through the impactful moments in our lives, right? And so we got to go find that part that's being triggered. We got to go find that part. I like to say we're driving a bus, and I choose a tour bus over a school bus any day because there's air condition, there's some storage on the bottom, there's a bathroom in the back. So I choose the tour bus over the school bus any day. But when we're driving this tour bus of life, at any given moment, a part of ourselves will jump into the driver's seat, right? And this is what's happening when you get triggered. This is what's happening in your relationship. A part of yourself that we're identifying right now is jumping into the driver's seat and taking the wheel. Okay. So I hope I present that. Kelly, I'm going to pause here just to see how you're doing in this process. Not to share, but just, are you
Yeah.
following?
Very good. In fact, I am doing the work really, and
Okay,
yeah,
good.
it's so true. It's so vivid. It's why we're arguing in that because of the part,
The
right?
part. Okay, so you found that part. You found that earliest
Yeah.
memory so far. Okay. And so now step 4 is to personify that part. So we're going to give that part an age. So how old were you? If you can, we will give that part a name. So maybe a nickname you were called at that age, or a descriptor. Sometimes people use um, a name that just describes the personality or the persona at that age. But we want to really personify this part of you because you were a being of complexity. You weren't just this one feeling. You were, you could have been this bubbly little girl, or this really rascal little child, or you could have been really calm and shy, right? And now you're very spunky and you're outgoing, but that, making sure we personify who you were at that time in your life, and all the things that shaped you at that moment, we want to personify that. Give that part of you a personality, because it's much easier to support a person, another person, than it is to say, oh, well, me, like I'm trying to be nice to me, I'm trying to love me. Like it's sometimes it's hard to do that. But if you imagine even like a child of yours that's around that same age, or um another, like it could be a niece or nephew or cousin, right? It's easier to think of that part as a whole person, a whole persona. Okay, so that's why we're personifying them. At least an age and at least a name and some personality traits would be great. Okay, that's step 4. Step 5 is to acknowledge the fact that this part of you jumped into the driver's seat of your bus when you got triggered in this last incident. Like simply acknowledging, like, okay, yeah, that that 7-year-old little me, who her uncle passed away and also earlier on experienced her dad leaving, jumps into the driver's seat, or jumped into the driver's seat, right? Even in that moment where I'm like in shock of learning of my husband's 10-year addiction behind my back. Like she's jumping in saying like, "Oh my gosh, see, I told you we don't trust men. See, this is why we whatever, blah 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 blah." But she's just jumping in saying like, "Oh my gosh, I told you so. We can't do this," and she's having this major meltdown. So if you can acknowledge that this part of you is driving the bus now in this moment of trigger, in this moment of conflict, I guarantee you would come at this situation with much more compassion for yourself, much more grace. Because a lot of the times, what happens, the reason why we get stuck in these situations is because we're criticizing ourselves. Why are you acting like a little child? Why you need to grow up too? Like I knew, like you just start beating yourself up for being in this situation yet again. I knew it. Like, see, every time I ask him to take out the trash, he doesn't do it. Why do you even ask him anymore? What's wrong with you? Why don't you, like, you can't rely on him. What's going on? Right? Like, you just start criticizing yourself. And that's when we get stuck, is when we're criticizing ourselves. But if we can recognize that this is a little child jumping in the driver's seat, we would be much slower to jump on her and beat her up. Right? We'd be like, oh, yeah, that's right. Like when he doesn't take out the trash and I feel unheard, that's my, 4-year-old self jumping in the driver's seat. So what would I tell her? What can I tell her? And that moves me to the final step, which is step 6, is how can I support her in the here and now? Not in the past at 4 years old, but how can I help her now with my husband not taking out the trash, right? She's freaking out, she's having a meltdown. It feels like a tantrum sometimes. And what does she need to hear now? Right? So, sweetie, it's okay. I know he didn't take the trash out again, and it's really hurtful and it makes us remember what happened to us at 4, but that's not what's going on right now. He's not doing this to hurt us. He's not doing this because he doesn't care. He's simply in his nothing box. No, you'll learn more about that later. I can, that's another teaching for another time, right? But you're able to talk her or him or they through this situation right now. You're able to shower her with some love and compassion and walk her through, because what you're doing is you're externalizing the problem. This little part of you is having a problem with him or her or they, right? Not you. You're not having the problem. They are. This little one in you, the part that you personify. And when two other people have problems, isn't it so much easier to go up to them and say, "Oh, I can totally see what's happening here. Let me help you guys out. I know what's happening, so let me just be this neutral party." And you get to be that for yourself.
Mm.
Be the neutral party now for that personified part of you and that other person out there, which likely is your husband. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that is in like the quickest I could and like compacted in the most compacted way to teach you how to use this inner mosaic process to help you get unstuck, to help you resolve the conflict within you before you can ever resolve it outside of you. Like, you can't fix the relationship problems of the trash before you understand, first and foremost, that you're having an issue within you that's much deeper than the trash can.
Right.
Okay. Again, go through this recording and pause it as needed if you need to. You can also like reach out and say, "Sam, I don't know what the heck just happened. Please explain more." You can do that later. But for the sake of time, I want to move into the very final and last part of this presentation, this workshop today. And it's the one thing that Kelly said I'm known for. The last and final, teaching today is it only takes one person to transform a relationship. Right? This is my third marriage mind shift that I teach to my clients. And we've all heard the sayings, it takes two to tango, marriage is a two-way street, right? But this is what keeps us stuck in the cycle of insanity. That's what I call it. It's the cycle of insanity. These things that we were misinformed about earlier on that I shared with
Mhm.
you, that's what's
Mhm.
keeping us stuck. So I want you to think about nature for a second, okay? The ecosystem, even. Think about nature, think about the ecosystem. And what we've learned in science, so we've all probably had a science class here or there, and we learned that if you change one part of an ecosystem, may that be an extinction of a species or even an evolution of a species, right? The species evolves. But if you change one part by law, scientific and universal law, the entire, well, sorry, let me go to my next slide. We live in a world of systems, but the entire ecosystem must and will change, right? So again, like I said, the example is a extinction of a species, but let me give you another one, a family of five, right? So a lot of the times we have family members and then one moves away, far, far away, right? They're like another country, across the states. And when that person leaves, the dynamic of the rest of the four family members must and will change. And the cool part is when that family member does come back and they're a family of five again, everyone falls back into their old roles, right? But what I want to presence here is that when there's a change agent, and oh, here, when there's a change agent, and this is through the law of systems, if you change one part of a system, by law, the rest of the system must and will change to accommodate that initial change, whether it's a rising up or a natural completion. So, two people actually make a system. Sometimes people don't know that. We actually have a system within our own body. Like, there's a lot of systems that are happening at any given moment, but two people, a relationship can be a system. And if one person in a relationship begins to change and doing this deeper, not just outwardly personal development, not getting a new hobby or gaining new skills, but really doing the deeper inner work on a subconscious level, by law, the other person must and will change, or the system itself will come to a natural completion. The relationship itself will come to a natural completion. So the initial change agent must remain constant and steady long enough for the rest of the system to follow, or the system will go back to its original homeostatic state. So this is a subtle nuance that many people don't get. They're like, I changed. So why isn't he changing? Well, have you
Mm-hmm.
sustained that change long enough without going back at each argument, right? Like, have
Mm-hmm.
you sustained that change long enough for him to rise up, right? And a lot of the times it's no, at least in the beginning with my women and my clients, because every argument they have, they're back at their old pattern. They're arguing at the same level. It's like, no, the change must be constant, even despite the ups and downs in the relationship, right? You let them go up and down and you're still here. And once you reach that state of consistency, right, that's when the phase change can happen. That's when the water begins to boil. Okay, so it's not easy, but it is that simple. I promise you. But yes, if it feels hard, it's because it is. So I
And
will, yeah,
that's why you're there. That's
and
why
that's
we
why
have
I'm here.
coaches.
That's
Yes,
why
to help
everyone
you
has coaches.
navigate it.
Same thing for your health. Same thing for your wealth. Like, it's simple, but it's not easy. So that's why we have mentors in all areas of our lives. So I'll leave you with this, right? I challenge myself to show up and be the person in my dreams right now, despite what it looked like on the outside, right? Showing up and being the person that you want to be in your relationships right now, not waiting for them to change, but you doing the work and changing yourself first. And when I changed, everything changed. And that's for you too. So I want you to remember, here's your three tools that I taught you today, or tips that I taught you today. Is all relationships are built on a foundation of self-trust. Your partner is a perfect reflection of your subconscious beliefs, and it only takes one person to transform your relationship. And that one person is you. So thank you, Kelly. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sam. You gave us so many things to think about. Even I am familiar. I've attended Sam's Inner Mosaic, and it's an eye opener. Thank you for sharing this. And if they're interested to work with you on this, Sam, how can they reach you?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is to look me up on my website, www.thegems.com, and that's the gems with two M's, TheGems.com. That's probably the easiest way to book a call, to learn more about my modality, understand what I do and how I work with my clients. But yeah, I think that's
Yes.
a way to connect.
I invite you guys, if you're ready to work on yourself and change your relationships in your life, please contact Samantha. Thank you so much, Sam, for your time and for all your teachings. You're amazing.
Thank
I
you.
love you.
Love you too.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.